2024 United States presidential election. Among households earning $30,000 or less per year, 42% of those voters chose to support Donald Trump. Now look at what Trump was actually promising. Massive tax cuts for the wealthy, specifically targeting people earning over $1 million annually, cutting their tax rate down to just 15%. At the same time, he promised to cut welfare spending by 10% across the board, which includes Medicaid and food stamp programs. He promised to keep the minimum wage frozen exactly where it was, with no increases for years. So here's the question that nobody seems to want to ask out loud. Why would someone earning barely $30,000 a year, someone who relies on Medicaid to pay for their health care, someone who desperately needs higher wages to survive, why would that person vote for a candidate whose policies directly harm their wallet? It doesn't make sense on the surface. Picture a small town in Ohio, a faded main street with a closed factory in the distance. A pickup truck in a parking lot with a Trump sticker on the back window. The driver is 47 years old, has been unemployed for 14 months, earns about $28,000 annually when he does work, and he receives Medicaid benefits. He voted for Trump. Most people look at this situation and they immediately ask, is this man simply not thinking clearly? Is he brainwashed by cable news? Did he fall for misinformation on social media? Does he simply not understand economics well enough to see how these policies hurt him? But what if the question itself is wrong? What if he's not voting against his own interests at all? What if he's voting for something else entirely, and we're just asking the wrong question? Most people, when they see this situation, they immediately jump to the same three explanations. The first explanation is this: he's been brainwashed by media. Fox News runs constantly in his house. His social media feed is filled with Trump content because algorithms learn what he clicks on. He's trapped in an information bubble where he only sees one perspective, one narrative, one worldview repeated over and over again. He believes things that aren't true because the media ecosystem around him has deliberately fed him false information designed to manipulate his vote. The second explanation people offer is about education levels. He dropped out after high school. He never went to college. He doesn't have formal economic training. So when politicians talk about tax policy and fiscal deficits and monetary supply, these concepts are too complex for him to understand. He simply lacks the education required to make an informed decision about economic policy, so he votes based on gut feeling instead of analysis. The third explanation focuses on identity and culture. Maybe these people argue the economy isn't actually his primary concern at all. Maybe he cares more about gun rights, or immigration policy, or abortion restrictions, or preserving white American identity in a country that's becoming more diverse. So even if the economic policy is bad for him, the cultural and identity issues matter more, so he votes accordingly. These three explanations sound reasonable on the surface. The guy lacks information, the guy lacks education, the guy prioritizes identity politics over economics. It's a coherent story, it fits together, it makes sense. But here's where the story starts to fall apart. But when you actually look at the data, something strange emerges. The first contradiction is about information itself. In 2024, internet access in America is 96%. 96% of households have internet. If you search on Google for Trump tax plan, you get 15 million results in 0.3 seconds. The information is everywhere, it's freely available. You don't need cable news or social media algorithms to find out what Trump's policies actually are. The New York Times has written about it, CNN has written about it, even Fox News has reported on his tax plan, explaining exactly who benefits and who doesn't. A Pew Research study from 2024 asked low-income voters directly, do you know that Trump's tax cuts primarily benefit wealthy people? 78% said yes, they know this. They understood the policy. They had the information. But here's the strange part. 39% of those same people, the ones who said they understood the policy and knew it primarily benefits the wealthy, they still voted for Trump anyway. They had the information, They weren't brainwashed. They knew exactly what the policy was, and they chose to vote for it regardless. The second contradiction is about education levels. In 2016, researchers looked at voting patterns in Wisconsin, comparing two cities with very different demographics. Madison, where many economics professors live, has an average household income of $65,000. Hillary Clinton won Madison with 72% of the vote. Milwaukee, where many factory workers live, has an average household income of $31,000. Trump won Milwaukee with 51% of the vote. Now here's the important part. Economics professors in Madison earn more money than factory workers in Milwaukee. Yet the factory workers, the ones with lower education and lower income, voted for the candidate whose policies would hurt them economically. But wait, what if you took an economics professor earning $31,000? What if you put that educated person in the same financial situation as a factory worker? Would they vote differently? Maybe not. Maybe education isn't actually the determining factor. Maybe the situation they're in is more important than their education level. The third contradiction is about priorities themselves. A 2024 exit poll asked low-income Trump supporters, what issue mattered most to you when you voted? 68% said the economy was their number one priority, 18% said immigration, 9% said abortion, 5% said gun rights. The overwhelming majority, nearly 7 out of 10, said they voted primarily based on economic concerns. But they voted for a candidate whose economic policies would harm them. So it's not that they prioritize culture over economics. They say economics is their top concern, yet they still made the economically harmful choice. Even more revealing, the same poll asked those voters, do you think Trump's tax cuts will help you personally? 61% said no, they did not believe the tax cuts would help them. Then the poll asked, and you still voted for him? 73% of those people said yes, they voted for Trump even though they believed his policies would not help them. So they had the information, they understood the policy, they made a conscious choice, they knew it wouldn't benefit them economically, and they voted for him anyway. If it's not misinformation, and it's not lack of education, and it's not misplaced priorities, then what's actually going on? So let's ask a completely different question. Instead of asking why voters make irrational choices, let's ask something else entirely. Why does a benefit that arrives in 5 years feel less real than a feeling you have right now? Why does a promise about what will happen in 2028 seem more abstract and uncertain than something you can experience today? Why does belonging matter more in the voting booth than a policy analysis you read online? The original question was focused on the voter as a person. It asked, is this person brainwashed? Is this person uneducated? Is this person confused about their priorities? But what if the voter isn't the problem? What if the problem is the situation the voter is actually in? What if the problem is the timing of different kinds of rewards and punishments? What if the problem is that one thing feels immediate and real, while another thing feels delayed and theoretical? Let's look at it from a completely different angle. The voter is standing between two different signals. Signal number one is the economic policy. Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy, the frozen minimum wage, the potential cuts to Medicaid down the road, all of that. The effect of that policy arrives in 3 to 5 years. You don't feel it immediately. You have to imagine it. You have to calculate it. You have to think about what it might mean for your life in 2028 or 2029. Signal number two is belonging and recognition. It's the feeling you get at a Trump rally when he says, "You are not forgotten. The elites have ignored you for decades, but I see you, I hear you, you matter." That signal arrives right now, today, in the moment. It doesn't require calculation. It doesn't require you to imagine a future. You feel it immediately. Two signals, both real, but they arrive at completely different times. One is abstract and delayed. One is concrete and immediate. One requires faith in a promise about the future. One gives you something tangible right now. The question isn't, why did the voter choose the worse economic option? The question is, why didn't the delayed benefit feel as real as the immediate one? Let's look at this through a different lens entirely. Imagine you're that 47-year-old man in Ohio. You've been unemployed for 14 months. You're earning $28,000 a year when you do find work. You're on Medicaid. You haven't had a real conversation with someone in weeks where you felt like they actually cared what you thought. It's November 5th, 2024, Election Day. You walk into the voting booths. You have two choices in front of you. Choice number one, you vote for the Democratic candidate. The policy is clear: raise taxes on wealthy people, expand Medicaid, increase the minimum wage. In theory, this helps you economically, but here's what that choice feels like right now, in this moment, standing in the voting booth. The Democratic messaging over the past few years has been about re-education programs for people like you. Learn to code. Transition to new industries. Your old job is gone and you need to adapt. The implicit message is, you need to be fixed, your skills are obsolete, your way of life is wrong. The economic benefit, if it comes, arrives in 2027 or 2028. Years from now, you have to trust that it will actually happen. You have to believe that politicians will follow through. The feeling you have right now is, nobody sees me, nobody values what I contributed, nobody thinks I matter the way I am. Choice number two, you vote for Trump. The economic policy, honestly, is confusing. You don't fully understand all of it, but here's what you understand right now in this moment. Trump's message is different. He says, you are not forgotten. The elites have abandoned you. The system has failed you. But I see you. You matter. Your anger is justified. Your resentment is valid. That message arrives today. You feel it right now. Standing in the voting booth for the first time in months, you feel like someone recognizes that you exist. The economic consequences of his policies, the ones that might hurt you, those arrive in 2028, years from now. So you stand in the booth and you think, 2028 Medicaid versus right now, this feeling that I matter. Which one feels more real? Which one is more concrete? Which one can you actually feel in your body right now? You choose the one that feels real today. This isn't irrationality. This is a very logical choice based on what's available to you right now versus what's promised later. Think about it like hunger and nutrition. You're hungry right now, your stomach is empty, you're experiencing genuine physical discomfort. Someone offers you choice number one, take this vitamin supplement. In 3 months, your health will improve, you'll have more energy, your immune system will be stronger, but you have to wait 3 months to feel any of it. Someone offers you choice number two, eat this hamburger. Right now, immediately, your hunger ends, the discomfort stops, you feel satisfied. You know the vitamin is better for your long-term health. You understand the logic, but you're hungry right now, so you eat the hamburger. Is that irrational? No, it's a perfectly rational response to hunger in the present moment. Now imagine something worse. Imagine you're not just hungry. Imagine you're also lonely. You've been isolated for months. Nobody has talked to you. Nobody has acknowledged your existence. Choice number one, an economics textbook explaining why you should support policy that helps you in 3 years. Choice number two, a group of people saying, you belong here, you're not alone, we see you, we value you. Which choice do you make? Not because you're stupid, not because you're brainwashed, but because right now, belonging feels more urgent than future economics. The data actually shows this pattern. Researchers at MIT conducted a study in 2023 with 1,200 low-income participants. Scenario A, policy A will give you $500 per year in direct benefit. Scenario B, policy B will give you $100 per year in direct benefit, and people like you have chosen this policy. 62% chose scenario B. They chose to make less money because the message included the signal that people like them, people in their group, had already made that choice. They left $400 on the table to feel like they belonged to a group. This isn't about voting irrationally. This is about how human beings actually prioritize what feels urgent. Effects that arrive later feel theoretical. Effects that arrive now feel real. Here's how to summarize this entire thing into one simple statement. When the effect comes later, people choose what they can feel right now. This isn't unique to voting. This isn't unique to politics. This is a universal human pattern that shows up everywhere in human behavior. Look at smoking cigarettes. The delayed effect is real and well documented. Smoking increases lung cancer risk by 85% over 20 years. Smoking causes heart disease. Smoking costs money. All of that is true and well known. But the immediate effect is also real. Smoking reduces stress right now. Smoking is a social activity where you connect with other smokers. Smoking gives you a break from your day. Smoking calms your nervous system in the moment. People know about the cancer risk. They've seen the warnings. They understand the math, but they smoke anyway because the immediate stress relief feels more urgent than the future cancer risk that might arrive in 20 years. Look at credit card debt. The delayed effect is clear. If you carry a balance on a credit card, you pay 20% interest annually. That debt compounds. In 5 years, a $1,000 purchase costs you $1,500 because of interest. But the immediate effect is also real. Using a credit card means you can buy something today. You can feel less poor right now. You can give your kids a birthday present today instead of waiting 6 months to save up. People understand compound interest. They know about the debt trap, but they use the credit card anyway because feeling less poor today feels more urgent than the debt burden that arrives in 5 years. Look at climate change. The delayed effect is catastrophic. Rising sea levels, crop failures, mass migration, ecosystem collapse, all arriving over the next 30 years. But the immediate effect is also comfortable. Driving an SUV is convenient right now. Keeping your house at a comfortable temperature costs money, but it feels good today. Flying on airplanes is fast and easy right now. People understand climate science. They accept that climate change is real and dangerous, but they continue driving and flying and heating their houses because comfort today feels more urgent than environmental crisis that arrives in 30 years. Look at retirement savings. The delayed effect is crucial. If you don't save for retirement, you'll be poor and dependent when you're old. This is a real concern that arrives in 40 years. But the immediate effect is also real. That money you could save, you could use it to travel now. You could buy nice things now. You could help your family now. You could feel secure and comfortable now instead of deferring everything for the future. People understand retirement math. They know they need to save, but they spend the money anyway because feeling secure and comfortable today feels more urgent than retirement security that arrives in 40 years. All of these follow the same pattern. The delayed effect is real. The immediate effect is more powerful. This is how human beings actually work. We're not broken, we're not stupid, we're not irrational. We're just responding to what feels most urgent and most real in this moment. The Ohio factory worker voting for Trump isn't voting irrationally. He's prioritizing what feels real right now over what feels abstract and uncertain later. The smoker isn't being self-destructive. He's prioritizing stress relief today over health tomorrow. The credit card user isn't being foolish. She's prioritizing comfort today over financial security tomorrow. The person driving an SUV isn't denying climate science. She's prioritizing convenience today over environmental consequences later. These are all rational choices based on what feels most urgent and most real in the present moment. The question isn't, why are people so irrational? The question is, why does the immediate feel so much more powerful than the delayed? And the answer is, because it's happening right now. So let's go back to where we started. The question was, why do poor people vote for rich people? Or more specifically, why do voters vote against their own economic interests? The common answer was that they're brainwashed, or uneducated, or prioritizing identity over economics. But we've seen that none of those explanations actually hold up when you look at the data. The voter had information. The voter understood the policy. The voter knew it wouldn't help them economically, and they voted for it anyway. So the real answer is different. The voter isn't voting against their own interests. The voter is choosing between two different kinds of interests, and the immediate one feels more urgent than the delayed one. The economic interest arrives in 2028. It requires faith in a promise. It requires calculation. It requires imagination about a future that might or might not happen. The interest in belonging arrives today. It's concrete, it's emotional, it's something you can feel in your body right now, standing in that voting booth. When you frame it that way, the choice makes perfect sense. It's not irrational, it's just human. Let's go back to that Ohio factory worker one more time. He's 47 years old. He's been unemployed for 14 months. He earns $28,000 a year. He lives in a town where the main factory closed down. His friends have moved away. His family is scattered. He walks into the voting booth on November 5th, 2024. An economist could tell him, if you vote for this candidate, in 3 years you might lose your Medicaid coverage. Your healthcare costs will increase. Your financial situation will deteriorate. He already knows this. He's read the analysis. He understands the argument. But he thinks about something else. He thinks about the last time he went to a political rally. He thinks about standing in a crowd of thousands of people, all of them there, and the candidate on stage saying, "You are not forgotten. You matter. Your anger is justified. I see you." For 3 hours, standing in that crowd, he didn't feel invisible. For 3 hours, he felt like he belonged to something larger than himself. For 3 hours, he felt like he mattered. He steps up to the voting machine. He makes his choice. He votes for Trump. Walking out of the voting booth, he smiles for the first time in 6 months. An economist might ask, "Don't you realize what you just did to your own future?" And he would say, "I realize it, but right now I felt like I mattered. Right now I felt like I belonged. Right now I wasn't invisible." 3 years from now is abstract. 3 years from now is uncertain. 3 years from now is something I have to imagine. But right now I felt something real. That's why he voted the way he did. Not because he's foolish, not because he's brainwashed, not because he doesn't understand economics, but because right now felt more urgent than later. Because belonging felt more real than a policy promise. Because being seen felt more important than future Medicaid coverage. When you understand it that way, when you see it from that perspective, everything looks different. It's not a mystery anymore. It's not a puzzle. It's just human nature responding to what feels most real and most urgent in this present moment. The man isn't voting against his own interests. He's voting for the interest that matters most to him right now. And when you look at it that way, you stop judging him for being irrational. You start understanding him as someone in a situation where immediate belonging feels more urgent than delayed economics. And maybe, if you really want to understand why poor people vote for rich people, you have to stop asking about their intelligence or their education or their media consumption. You have to ask about their loneliness. You have to ask about their invisibility. You have to ask about what it feels like to live in a place where nobody sees you, nobody values you, nobody acknowledges that you exist. Because when you're invisible and someone finally makes you feel visible, that feeling is more powerful than any economic policy argument could ever be.